Hi, this is Neeraj here, and today I am at the Zorba the Buddha retreat in Delhi. And Zorba the Buddha is an amazing retreat based on Osho and Osho's techniques and trainings that are just, for me, like have been a massive impact on my life. And I was very intrigued about coming here because there's a very special event that runs every year, and it has been running for the last 5 years, run by my dear friend Shashi Saluna, called the Darkness Retreat. And what the Darkness Retreat is where you spend 7 days in absolute darkness. You do everything in darkness. You do special rituals, you do techniques based on Osho, which are like breathwork, pranayama, yoga, musical journeys, and very, very deep meditations. And from this, what happens is you're meant to go back to the source. You're going to go into the source and face the biggest things that have held you back in life, and you're able to transform those things into more empowering things to help you in your life. Okay, and it can help you download and have visionary downloads and access new channels and visions and ideas and concepts about reality and about aspects in your life. You can even find your real purpose in life, you know, if you're a bit lost or unsure. And I went into this not really knowing much about what it is and what it's about, and I kind of went on the faith of Shashi. And literally when I got here, I found out the day, like a few days before, we were going to be in absolute darkness, and we're going to have to do everything in darkness. We're going to have to use the toilet, we have to sleep in darkness, we have to eat in darkness, and we're going to be in this room, and I was looking around the room, and we have to find our way around using like padded surfaces on the floor and ropes, and it was kind of daunting. Now I was like, how am I going to do this? You know, this must be really hard. And also we're going to be completely cut off of the internet. We're going to have no phones, no technology, and my whole business and life revolves around the internet right now. And you know, I won't have any access to my music production stuff. So it's a complete detachment from your normal reality, and you're immersing yourself in this darkness. And why would anyone want to do that? And then Shashi explained that actually when you're in darkness, for a period of time, you start producing 5-MeO-DMT. 5-MeO-DMT is also produced during kind of like shamanic plant rituals using things like ayahuasca and the toad venom that also is just pure 5-MeO-DMT. And I've done these in the past, and what they do is they take you straight back to source and get you into this visionary state where you can actually become one-on-one with the creator. It's literally what happens, and I've experienced this before, but with this it's naturally done. There's no sacred plants involved, and it builds up gradually over time. It gets more and more intense. So I was like, wow, so we're going to have that intense kind of psychedelic experience as well as being in total darkness. I was like, okay, now this is even more daunting. So what I did was like, you know, I tried to do a bit of research about it, and there wasn't really much about it. There's a couple of retreats around, and I realized that actually very few people have ever had a chance to do this kind of thing, or even do this, or even know about this. So I'm like, okay, so I'm going to be one of the few people who's going to experience this kind of event, like, you know, and is it going to be safe? Is it, you know, what is it? Am I going to go crazy? What's going to happen? All these kinds of weird thoughts were going in my mind. So then, literally what happened was, the day before I was going to go in to the darkness, I actually had a relapse, complete relapse of the ulcerative colitis. This is an illness that I had 6 years ago, and I'd managed to beat it, and I had used natural techniques to overcome it, and suddenly it come back full force, like as bad as when I first got it. And I was like, oh my god, this is just too much now. Should I pull out? Should I not go? And I explained this to Shashi, and I was really scared and nervous. Shashi said, sometimes what happens is old illnesses may come up. What this means is that this this is your body now telling you, giving you a chance to actually resolve it and go right to the root cause of why you got it in the first place. And usually this is based on karmic actions that have happened early in your life, the unresolved tensions, emotions, and also early imprints. So things like being when you're first in the womb, like how you were, how your environment was in the womb. You come face to face with these, and there's your chance for your body and your mind to reshape and rewire these imprints in the darkness. Okay, and then I discovered that actually many ancient cultures have used these techniques before of going into darkness, and the Essenes, who are the people who were around the time of Jesus, and they wrote the Dead Sea Scrolls, they actually embraced the darkness. They did these long rituals in the darkness, and they said that through darkness is how you find God. Okay, that's the true way of finding God. And then I listened to this Osho discourse, and Osho says that that the only way to find God, and that this is God, and God itself is the darkness, is darkness, and from darkness came light. So I was like, okay, right, this is interesting. Right, this seems like a challenge that I'm gonna accept and go for. So I decided to pluck up the courage and go for it and go in there. And now imagine you do everything in darkness. So we're doing these special rituals, we're doing yoga, we're doing meditation, pranayama, we're eating in the darkness, we listen to this beautiful journey, soundtracks and music. In fact, Shashi plays some of my own music. But imagine doing all this where we're finding our way around darkness with a bunch of people that we hardly even know, okay? Then also having to go to the toilet about 10 times. And you get lost, right? You can get very, very, very lost in this place, okay? If you move off the line a bit, you can get lost. So imagine really needing to go to the toilet, like desperately, and then being lost in the middle of the dark. And this is the kind of stuff that happened to me on the first couple of days, and it was intense. It was absolutely intense. The first 2 days, I was just overwhelmed. I was shocked, I was scared, I had this huge fear, but something kept going because I knew that I would get something out of this on the other side. I knew that this was my chance to face it, and I just surrendered. After about day 2, I really surrendered, just let myself go into the flow. And I was like, I'm not going to give up. I'm going to do this. I'm going to really go for it. And then this is what happened. Then what happens is, the reason why you go into darkness is that you produce DMT, and this 5-MeO opens up this 5-MeO DMT opens up your channels into the other world. Okay, you go into the other, right? And DMT is only produced normally when you die. Okay, and what this darkness retreats usually do is they prepare you for death. And the way they prepare you for death is so that you liberate yourself, free yourself from past traumas and karmic events, so that you can escape this cycle of rebirth and on this earth, if you want to. A lot of people, when they die, they get their soul is clinging on, their ego's clinging on to stay here because there's something unresolved in this reality. And this is your chance to free yourself, liberate yourself. So these ancient cultures, they would do these things. These Tibetan monks would also do these things as a way, because they knew that this was their way of breaking free and changing reality and living life more on their terms with freedom. And another thing that really holds people back is these early imprints, these early traumas showing up later on in their life. So things like incredible amounts of fear, okay, uncontrollable anxiety and things like that, or anger and negative emotions playing out when you don't really want them to. You know, they're unconscious, they're happening on autopilot, and you really consciously don't want to feel this way, but unconsciously your body responds because it perceives threats and things based on these early imprints. And unless you go back into that operating system and reprogram it, and this deep architecture of programming that happens like from the moment you're like in the womb, okay, they're very hard to shift. So what the darkness retreat does is also gets you back into that early imprint by bringing you back into the womb, okay? And this is where it gets very, very deep, because many people don't realize how much effect, okay, the womb has, all right? And the imprint happen in the womb, the environment of your mother, okay? Very, very few people are aware of how powerful this is and this conditioning. So basically, this is how you shift it through this darkness retreat, and you have the ability to do it. If you want to do it, you have the ability to do it. And this is how you shift it. You do these special rituals, you do these exercises, and you surrender fully, okay? And what happens is you basically mimic this state that you go into, that you're in the womb, before you're even born. And this environment is the environment of your mother, okay? The mother, how your mother was when she was pregnant with you. And if that environment isn't pure, if it isn't clean, if she's under a lot of stress, if she's depressed, it can create some big tensions and traumas inside the baby. And I know for a fact that my mum was not happy. She was not happy in various aspects of her life, and then she had me, okay? And this has left me with these imprints, and they have played out. And this illness, I believe, also has some roots in that. So what happened was I started to go back into that, and I started to really feel what it was like to be in the womb again. And this intense emotions were going through me. On the first 2 days, I was in tears, I was crying, I was so emotional, I was like literally having a nervous breakdown, really, that's what it felt like. But I knew back in mind something magical was going to happen. And then day 3, I cracked. Day 3, I was having these conversations with some higher version of myself, and I was doing these really powerful, like, yoga trauma release exercises. In fact, some of this was inspired from Wim Hof. Wim Hof does this breathwork technique where it's all based on breath holds, and I was combining breath holds with yoga postures like he does, and figuring out my own ways to break the tension around my psoas muscles, the pelvic floor muscles, where we store a lot of this imprinting. And so I started doing this, and at one point I just cracked, and instead of crying, pure laughter came out, just joy and laughter just came out. Boom, I was just like filled with laughter, hysterical laughter. In fact, my neighbor next to me, he was going through a similar kind of intense experience. We both were just in stitches, cracking up, laughing our heads off constantly. It was just insane. It was so funny. And slowly I started to feel like I was breaking these early imprints, and I started to actually then have like conversations with people in my life where I've had problems. You know, I've had like business decisions have broken, relationships have not gone the way that you know, I wanted them to, and things have ended badly and with trauma attached to them. And even my own family, my parents and my brother and all these people where there have been some past disagreements and they've left some kind of unresolved tension. And I did forgiveness rituals to each one of them slowly, and transformed my my actual kind of my physical response to those memories. So a lot of these emotions are stored in our muscles, okay? And unless we find ways to let them go, it's very, very hard, especially that early imprinting in the womb. So as you go through the darkness, you start breaking all these things down. In the first few days you start doing this, and then the DMT is building up and up, and you start feeling like literally you're in the presence of God. You really do. You feel like, and this God is teaching you, it's bringing you through, guiding you through your life slowly and steadily to give you a rebirth at the end of it, okay? Where you come out of the womb as a whole new person, okay? And so what happened was I started to feel a bit better with my health. It wasn't 100%, it wasn't anywhere near as bad as it was on the first day, but it was getting steadily better. There were a few moments of like, you know, the colitis got pretty bad, but then I'd find ways to reduce stress, and I felt like it was just a cleaning out of my system. It was a big detox, spiritual detox. And then magic started happening, like souls were entwining. I was like having amazing connections with people who were at the retreat, and Shashi was playing some of my music, and it was just divine, and I was getting great feedback from others about the music, and I realized some real big truths about my life and my purpose and why I'm here. And I really realized that music is core to me. It's who I am. It's what I was born to do here and bring. And also the fact that I have the power, the gift to help others and share knowledge like this with others. And I started to have visions of the success of bringing an amazing drinks brand that is an alternative to a poison, which is Coca-Cola. You know, I had visions about that, and I also stopped judging them as well, and I started to have a different opinion of everything. I stopped judging things, and I stopped judging the past, and I stopped judging other people, and I felt much more at peace with the way of existence and existence and the universe, knowing exactly what is right for us, and what and even if it doesn't, so what? And even if there isn't a benevolent universe, so what? I stopped worrying about all that stuff, and I started to feel free again, free of worry and tension and judgment and judgment about myself. And then the last couple of days is when it gets really profound, when you start really having this forgiveness for yourself, and this deep self-love starts coming through. And I just really started to forgive myself for the wrongs that I've done in my life, like for the first time in a really proper way, not just saying it, but really meaning it and really doing it, and doing it in such an amazing environment. And somebody I connected with very deeply on this retreat is Dr. Judy, who's now become a dear friend. She taught me this forgiveness ritual after talking to her, based on this Hawaiian mantra, which is very simple, that is, you say to yourself these lines, okay, with absolute conviction: I am sorry, please forgive me, I love you, thank you. And what you do is if you have any conflict, you have a picture, a vision of that person appear in front of you, and you say this, and you keep repeating this, and the vision of them will change. It'll invoke some kind of magic. And I started to do this, and because you're in this hallucinogenic state, I started to get visions of the people that I've had conflicts with in the past, old relationships and things, and I could see the anger of them turning into big smiles in front of me, and you could see it in front of you. It was amazing. Like, the visions were just so profound because it's just pitch blackness, and this was so cathartic and just so amazing. It was just so liberating. And you start feeling, after about 3 or 4 days in there, this overwhelming bliss appearing, because you start producing a lot of melatonin, and melatonin is like it's a powerful antioxidant. You produce this 5-MeO DMT and serotonin. You feel really good as a result. So you're producing all these feel-good hormones, which just produces like this sensation of euphoria and bliss over you as well. And also because there's no judgment, there's amazing how much when light actually creates judgment of you, and your unconscious is always looking to see what do they think of us, it's always looking out for judgment. It's always looking out for other people's opinions of you. It's always looking out for danger ahead of you. So once you overcome that fear of like being in the dark, which I really had, okay, obviously I had it. And this is the biggest thing actually, is fear. Okay, and this what I found this darkness retreat helps you do is overcome fear in a very profound way. Because what I realized was that I had this huge sense of fear before I came into this retreat, and fear really affects the colon. Okay, according to Ayurveda, fear is what affects the colon, and whenever I've had the colitis, I've realised that the trigger for it is fear, and lots of anxiety and fear and worries about the future, especially. And what this I think happened was I actually felt profound fear of being in the dark, overwhelmingly, from my childhood. Because in the childhood, in the first few years of my life, I couldn't sleep with my parents or slept with my grandma, and I had this huge fear of the dark, really intense fear of the dark, like crazy fear of the dark. And I had night terrors and stuff. I remember it very distinctly, and I think this is because of the stress that my mum had in the womb, and when I was in the womb, and I think this carried on. I had fear in the womb when I was in the womb before I was born. I had fear, a lot of fear, that came to me from my mum. My mum is actually quite a nervous, kind of fearful person. She's like massive phobia against certain things like dogs and needles and things, and quite a panicky kind of soul. Bless her, you know, I love her. But these things can impact you as a kid, unless you overcome them. And many people are too scared to admit it. You know, they think they're really strong. But I really wanted to really fix things and not just pretend about it. And so this was it. So I had to overcome my fear of the dark. And what better way to do it than the darkness retreat? And that is exactly what happened. And when you do that, your unconscious stops having to worry about other senses. Okay, you know, the sight, the sight especially, because that's how we often observe danger, and it stops having to think about that, and it's a massive release and relief for your unconscious mind, and you literally, the muscles of your face just become really, really relaxed as well. It's amazing how much tension we store up in our facial muscles based on perception of threats in our environment. So slowly, I overcame this fear. I felt this amazing bliss, super liberated, and I actually could have stayed in there longer. That was the thing. And you know, these ancient cultures, like the Tibetan monks, they would actually even raise children who they believe would be the next shamans in absolute darkness, and they'd raise them for like years in the dark, and it will give them this kind of supernatural shamanic powers at the end of it. I could have stayed a bit longer, and maybe maybe in the future I might do something like that and do a much longer retreat. Maybe not years, but you know, maybe a couple of weeks even. I might do it when I feel the calling. But I felt a huge liberation of this on coming out of the dark, and this is the thing. I got the colitis. It felt a lot better when I came out of the dark. I got some of my remedies that I used to use, and now I'm feeling a lot more healthy. I'm making this video now, and you know, usually in this time I would have had to rush to the toilet, and I haven't had. My bowel movements have gone down to a couple of times a day now, 2 or 3 times. You know, rather than 10 plus. I do feel I'm getting better, and I'm going back to just get back to full health again. Do a nice, lifestyle transformation in my hometown, in my place where I'm living at the moment, Kopangan. It's not my English hometown where I'm from, but I now consider it my home, and in Sri Tanu, and I'm going to really start having a lot more self-love and going really deep on the creativity in my life, and really focusing more on that, doing more of the things I really love, and just doing what I love, and doing more of what I do. and stop worrying and judging myself for things that I feel like I should do when really I don't want to do. Okay, I'm just going to be myself a lot more, and that's the biggest inspiration for me is from this is that it's actually okay to be you, you know, and that you should really love yourself first, and take care of yourself and look after yourself and do good things for yourself every day. So I'm going to actually do a very special interview with Shashi all about this, but this was just a quick one. Well, it wasn't that quick, it's like 25 minutes, almost half an hour of me talking. So I'm going to do a very, very special interview with Shashi. We're going to go much more deeper on the real kind of history of these retreats and what it's about, and why I believe that everyone, even the presidents and the prime ministers, should have to do something like this in order to have a clean enough mind and a sense of higher purpose for them, and for them to face their demons and really embrace them and learn to dance with their demons, so that we have people who stand for something positive in the world, you know. And we've lost that, and I feel like we need to bring some of these ancient shamanic rituals back and make them mandatory, especially for people in high positions of power. Okay, so on that note, I'll see you very soon.